Good evening. The name of my program tonight is Ghosts, Goblins, and Strange Creatures of the Prairie. And I'm going to introduce myself here. And I want to say something about this presentation because there's a little bit of history behind it. I first did this at Deer Park Prairie, and I think it was the first year, I believe, that we had just acquired it. And we met over at the house at Deer Park Prairie. And I think maybe Lan, you were there, maybe. Yeah. And we had mowed a trail over to the cemetery. And we had a walk planned after the talk and so forth. So I gave the presentation. This one is quite a bit changed from the original, but it still had the same theme. And we walked over to the cemetery, and we had little lights that we were holding down on the ground, you know, so that we wouldn't scare anything and we could still see a little bit. And coming back from the cemetery, I think I had two kids behind me. We were kind of in little groups, and we did our little walk to the cemetery and kind of looked for spooky things and told stories and so forth. And as we were walking back, I had on a long black skirt. Don't ask me why I decided to wear that. I just thought it would be, you know, in league with Halloween. And so I'm walking along in this long black skirt, and all of a sudden I feel something brush against my leg and my skirt. And I'm thinking, I don't know what that was. And so I turned around and I told the students behind me, something just walked past me and it brushed my skirt. They thought I was trying to scare them. I had no idea what it was. And I said, you know what? I think we're going to use our flashlights, because we had told them they have to keep it down the ground, and flash them on the trail. I'd kind of like to see what went past me. So we held up our flashlights on the trail. And you know what we saw? A skunk.
Oh, oh my God.
It's like, okay. You never know what is going to show up on your ghostly night walks at Deer Park Prairie or any of our other prairies. So that was kind of a strange thing that happened that evening. And then I've done this presentation, I think, one or two other times. Honestly, can't remember. And every time I change it a whole lot. So the emphasis tonight is going to be more on species, some of the strange animals that we have in these prairies. And I think everybody here knows who I am, Pat Merkord, and I've been everything an HNPAT there is to be, and I'm still there. I don't know when I'm going to probably die in it, but that's okay. Because I do love this organization, and I think we've done some pretty great things. The pictures that you see here, this one actually was taken not at one of our prairies, but at my ranch. And I just liked it because it was so strange. We picked up a rock, and there was these are called flat spiders as a group. And of course, that's scorpion, and they're kind of having a staring off contest. I don't know who eventually won. I'm not really sure, but it was like, I'll sting you, and this one's, yeah, I'll bite you. So who knows? And that's they're called underwing moths because underneath their wings, if you open it up, you can see a little bit up there. They're usually real bright, pretty colors. So when I first started working on this, I wanted to know if there was any kind of lore out there about prairies. Oh, good Lord, there's a ton. And the first time I did the program, I did a whole lot on that, of all the different legends from Indians and things of that sort. And one of the things that I noticed is if you go into the Great Plains, especially further up north, and probably there's some here in Texas too, I know of one. There's towns that have been abandoned that were old farming towns where they had plowed the prairie, and eventually it died because the railroad didn't go through, or the railroad, in this case, went a different direction. And the bones are what's left. There's bison, of course, and this bone right here, anybody know what that one is?
A rodent of some sort?
It is a rodent.
Prairie dog.
Yes. Prairie dog. That's a prairie dog bone. So two species that we really associate with prairies, and it's not unusual to sometimes find their bones. So then I wondered, well, is there anything about Texas any Texas lore. Well, I have to tell you, when I got into the Texas lore, the crazier it got. That makes sense, right? Okay, so I did not know we had a ghost this close to us. And I started researching and I found out, yes, there is a ghost very close to us apparently it's seen between West Columbia and Angleton. I don't know if any of you know what that highway is. I don't know, but they say if you drive that highway, do you?
It's on Highway 35.
Okay, well, it's on 35. That's a big highway. Well, anyway, they say if you go between those two towns on that highway, that sometimes you will see a glowing light. And they say it's usually about 4 to 6 feet off the ground and it bounces. Does this sound like anything else you've ever heard before? Like maybe the Martha lights? That they
Yeah.
say the same kind of things about it. And the legend is that it's a light, a lantern actually, that belongs to an old settler named Bailey. And he was quite a character, apparently. He preceded the Stephen F. Austin colony, although he settled on land that Stephen F. Austin had. And the two of them did not get along together. They didn't like each other because apparently Bailey was pretty much of a troublemaker. He drank real heavily. He was mean to his slaves. He's just generally an all-around not so good guy. And Austin tried to get rid of him, but he never could. And when he wasn't very old when he died, I think he was, I'm not really sure exactly, but he died in 1832. He contracted cholera. And before he died on his deathbed, he told his wife that he wanted to be buried standing up, not, prone in a coffin, but he wanted to be buried standing up and facing the west. Because he said, I always want to be free and I always want to be moving toward the west. So they did bury him, but he had two other requests. He wanted to be buried with his rifle right next to him and his jug of whiskey at his feet, because remember, he was a drinker. So they did that, except that before they got him completely buried, I think that was kind of awkward to bury somebody standing at the deep hole. And the slaves that buried him, they never were very fond of him because apparently he was a harsh master. So they stole his bottle of whiskey and it didn't get buried with him. And so the legend is that he is now a ghost and he's seen roaming around carrying his lantern, looking for his jug of whiskey, which he hasn't found yet. So what I didn't know, what was interesting about the story is that there actually is a historical marker for his plantation that he's from. And this is, you all are probably more familiar with Brazoria County than I am. But anyway, that's the general location of it, right in that area, right there.
Was the Prairie preserved?
I do not know if it's preserved or not. I suspect the answer is no. And these were some pictures that I found online, different renditions of what the ghost looks like or what the light looks like and so forth. But the most interesting thing I found was not all this information. I did not realize that this is such a well-known story. There are a number of YouTube videos, Facebook videos, and they're in excruciating detail about this man and the ghost. So apparently it's very popular. So if you wanted to Google Bailey's ghost, you would find, my favorite one was some lady historian she was dressed up in costume, of course, period costume, and she was telling the story, and it is much more colorful. I thought about playing it for y'all tonight, but it would have taken, she was very, you know how Texans can really draw out a story. Well, maybe you don't. I grew up in Texas and they love to tell long stories, and that's the way she was. So I finally decided I would let you all look it up, but you would have fun looking at it. And the Chronicle has had articles on it, and they have I think it's a YouTube that's out on it too. So he's fairly well known. Now this one is even more fun. So I first came across this about a hairy monster that showed up in 1963 during the summer when the kids were all out, partying at the local, wherever they go drive their cars and so forth. And while they were there having fun, as teenagers do, this hairy monster jumped out, and of course, they always go for the girls, what else? And everybody screamed and they ran. And everybody got so perturbed about it because there were two little boys that swore they had seen it really well, two young boys. And everybody got so upset, they went and grabbed their guns. Everybody was out roaming around with their guns, and the sheriff was getting, this isn't probably too good. A lot of shots were fired. Fortunately, nobody got hit, but the sheriff said, okay, this is it. He collected everybody's guns because he was afraid somebody would get shot. Well, not long after that, it appeared in another area, and they go through here on this newspaper article, all the different places that it ended up. It went more than just to right there. It went to Anderson. I don't know exactly what that is. Sanger, I know where Sanger is. Just various little communities that were up there in that north central Texas area. So that was what I knew about this legend when I first did my research, but I found out some more. Okay, so I did not know that the Fort Worth Nature Center is connected to Lake Worth, which is a big lake that's right there next to it. And they have, in fact, he's now become so famous that obviously are drawing pictures of him. And they even have a Lake Worth Monster Bash every year. Since 1969, when he first, again, same story, leaped on a car from a tree and, of course, tried to grab the girl again. So, now this was the funniest thing that I found. This next, you're going to be surprised because I think you'll know who this is. Any of you know who that is?
Michelle.
It's Michelle. So I'm gonna have to talk to her because she did not tell me that she was the one who led when she was working at the Fort Worth Nature Center. She led that monster bash, and she is holding her replica of the goat man, as he's called, the hairy monster. And they have a big festival all based on this legend of the hairy goat man, and they call it, of course, the monster bash. I had no idea. So if anybody that doesn't know her, she's on our board of directors. She's been there for a long time, and she's one of the founding members of the Fort Worth Native Prairies Association in Texas. So there are always surprises for me too, in these that I had no idea. But it was kind of a fun thing to find out. So one of the things I'm going to talk about tonight are a lot of the predator-prey relationships, but I've got some pretty interesting species to take a look at that you probably wouldn't normally see. With prairies and being rare prairies that we own, that we have conservation easements on, there's a lot of things out there that you're just not going to regularly see in town or in your backyard. Going back to seeing the bones on the prairie, this is the same thing that you saw, the same skull that you saw in that first picture. It's a prairie dog. Only this one I photographed at Madden Prairie. And I don't know that it belongs to this prairie dog. This is a picture of our favorite one. His name was Huey. And we used to feed him carrots, and he was one of the guard dogs, because some of them are ones that stand up all the time looking for anything coming and warn the rest of them. And then one day the numbers started going down, and eventually Huey was gone too. And we think that this was due to disease. We think it was probably either plague or tularemia, one of those wildlife diseases that are pretty bad. Pretty well wiped out the colony. There were a few left though, and we restarted it again. That was our third time to do it. And after the third time, they again got a disease and died off again. So now we don't have any prairie dogs at Madden, which we're very sad about because we loved them. And we tried so hard to, I will tell you, trying to reintroduce a species like prairie dogs, any kind of larger animal, bird, whatever, is much, much more difficult than just restoring the habitat, putting in grasses and plants. Very, very hard. Yeah. We may try it again, but we're not quite ready to take that step yet because we don't really have enough people up there to help watch them. And they're subject to so many prey species. These are the ones that we know not only did disease take a toll, but they were also particularly this one right here, the badger, they are, look at his claws. They can dig down 9 feet into their dens, the prairie dog dens, if they want to, and that's the end of a little family of prairie dogs unless they can find a way out. And of course, here's the coyote. They have lots of coyotes at that, and he's got a prairie dog in his mouth. But there's lots of hawks. We don't have ferrets at Madden. There's only a few places in the United States where you might be able to see one. They're pretty much extinct, but that was at one time one of the biggest predators. We don't have that one anymore. Snakes, got lots of them. So because of disease and predation, sports hunting, you might not imagine that there's sports hunting for prairie dogs, but they do. People actually pay to come and sit in chairs, and they have their guns, and when they pop up, they shoot them. And so that's there are people that don't want prairie dogs on their property, and they're trying to get rid of them. They, of course, lost a ton in the area where Madden Prairie Preserve is. We are completely surrounded by cotton fields. And so the agriculture has really just destroyed all of their habitat. And fragmentation is bad. We always worried about getting away from the colony and going out to the road because we weren't that far from a highway. And of course, then they would get run over. So it was very hard to keep track of them. Climate change is probably impacting them, but that people also control them by poisoning, drowning, bulldozing, and believe it or not, explosives. They'll throw something in there and blow up their den. So the poor thing, how they were still alive at all, facing all this, I don't know. And these are some other small mammals that are at Madden Prairie Preserve. The little ground squirrels have kind of come in and taken over some of the dens of the prairie dogs. This one right, oops, sorry. Whoa. Going the wrong way. There. Okay. Stuff. All right. This one, that is a wood rat, and you probably heard them. They're also called pack rats, and that is a nest of the wood rat or pack rat, and they're always inside cactus, and they'll have an entrance somewhere way down at the bottom, and they're really hard to get if they're in there, but they do have to come out to eat. And this one had just been caught by a hawk because we saw the hawk with it, and we went over to try to get some pictures, and it scared the hawk off, and he left the rat, and never did come back for it. But anyway, that's what they look like. He's obviously not alive there. Now, this actually is a shrew, and I don't know if you've ever seen a shrew before. When Kirsty and I found these, they were in, there was only actually one and parts of one left, and it was inside a wheelbarrow, and apparently it hadn't been able to get out, and there were a bunch of wasps in this shed, and you can see the pieces of wasp sometimes left, but notice some other things here. That's a foot. There's another, probably some kind of foot. So what happened is that shrews have to eat their body weight several times over during the day, or they literally die. And so there were probably several of them, judging from the number of feet that we saw, that got into this wheelbarrow, couldn't get out. And after they ate all the wasps, they literally started eating each other until there was only one left. So it was a really, really sad, creepy story. So, but we had no idea we had shrews there. We were very surprised when we saw that, but apparently they're pretty common. They're insectivores. They are not rodents.
But you store the wheelbarrows on the ground.
Yes, after that we decided, well, probably not good to leave that wheelbarrow sitting like that. Of course, we never imagined something like that would crawl in it, but unfortunately it did. And here's some other bones. I tried to find things that we have found at Deer Park Prairie. This is, of course, a possum. It wasn't very big. It was probably about 8 to 10 inches. We don't know what it died from, but it didn't get eaten because a lot of the hair and so forth is still intact. But it was just laying out there in Deer Park Prairie, and we photographed it. One of the things I did want to mention about the possums, and you may not know this, but a lot of the larger prowling animals like possums, one of the main things they like to eat is meat. they eat anything they can catch, like birds, little small mice, rodents, lizards. You may not have thought about a possum eating that, but that's actually the major part of their diet. Now, they also do eat other things as listed here. They'll eat fruits and vegetables and seeds and things like that. But if they can get it, they prefer prey that they can catch. Of course, they get preyed on because they're kind of slow. So our next section then is to take a look at the predators that are found on the prairie. And it's pretty extensive in terms of different kinds of species and what they prey on and so forth. Of course, I have to say I was a little bit partial to those that had more of a Halloween look to them. So this is, it doesn't even really have a common name. It's an orange and black scolid. It basically preys on grubs, beetle grubs that are down in the ground. It will actually dig down into the soil. And when it gets to a grub, it lays its egg and it eats the grub from the inside out. So that's one of your predators that's out there. The last few years, we've been fortunate. We've had some game cameras at the Kershaw Prairie and also at Madden Prairie. Kershaw has put out some game cameras. These were taken at Madden. And so here's the badger. If you didn't think we had any, there it is. And there's lots of bobcats. The ranchers around us always tell us there's so many bobcats, and they blame us for them because they say, come over and hide on your property, which I'm sure they do. But well, they deserve to live too. Now, you may be surprised that I put this one in as a predator. But these things, these feral hogs there's a reason they're so successful. And that's because they will literally eat anything that they can, if they're usually moving through the grass and the prairie and so forth, looking for stuff on the ground. But there could be all kinds of things that they root up when they're moving around: insects, mice, other kinds of rodents, birds, small birds, eggs. They'll eat any of that. So you have to consider them a predator also. And then these are the ones that were taken at the Kershaw Prairie. And we've got a gray fox. That's the gray fox. I was fascinated with this picture. That is a bobcat, but it looks more like a mountain lion, doesn't it? Because the males on the bobcats get really large. And I've had some people swear to me that they saw a mountain lion. I was like, are you sure? Because sometimes the bobcats really can, unless you can actually get a good look at the tail, you might think that it was a cougar. And here's another bobcat right here. And of course, that's a coyote and the great horned owl. So on the Kershaw Prairie, he literally has so many different things that can be out there looking for something to eat. And then I call these the predator prowlers because they all eat some kind of prey. And I just told you about the possum, but the raccoon, they're the same way. They love crustaceans like crayfish and things like that, but they'll eat lots of other things too. And the armadillo eats a lot of grubs and insects. And the skunk, the first time I found out about it, that they like the possum, their favorite food is meat. So they like to catch animals and eat them. I bet you didn't think that about the skunk. So skunks and possums and raccoons, they're all out there hunting for meat. And they'll eat the other stuff. They eat everything. They're pretty much omnivorous. But yeah, they like that meat too.
Is that the tail sticking up?
What?
The skunk?
Yeah, that's its tail. And this was that man.
Wow.
Yeah. Some of them have real bushy tails, but you can see it's got the two stripes.
Yeah.
And the other one that we see commonly, like at my ranch, is the hognose, and it doesn't have any hair on its nose like a pig. And it also is covered white all the way down its back. The only ones that we have seen at any of our prairies, is, to my knowledge anyway, is the striped skunk. Yeah.
Have you heard of ranchers exterminating raccoons? I heard of that from a
Oh, yeah.
coworker.
Well, I can tell you why.
Why?
I do know why. Because Texas Parks and Wildlife, on its wildlife management plans that, people get the 1D1 exemption. So on that plan of the 7 things that you can select to do, one of them is predator control. And the 2 species Oh, actually, there's three species that they recommend. Okay, I'll try to get 4. Brown-headed cowbirds is one, Texas rat snake, raccoon, and then the other one, of course, sparrow hawk. Now, you might wonder, well, why? And I've had this question asked me many times when I talk about wildlife management and so forth. They'll say, well, why are you recommending, or why does Parks and Wildlife recommend raccoon? Well, what you may not be aware of is that they are responsible for the majority of bird predation of nest. They eat little birds and their eggs. Remember, I said they're prowlers and they're predators. That's what they're doing. And they didn't realize this at first till they started, especially with the cameras, they were seeing it. And these things are very arboreal. I know at my house, they go up in the very tallest trees. They're as tall as my loblolly pines, and they're up the top of them.
And do rat snakes do that too? Is
Yes,
that why-
rat snakes climb trees also, absolutely.
Well, I knew they climb trees.
Yeah.
I didn't know they
Oh, yeah.
targeted chicks.
Oh, yes, yes.
Oh, that's
so-
sad. I love rat snakes.
I do too, especially the Texas rat snake is one of the prettiest ones. It's real pretty blue kind of colored, But yeah, they're responsible for a lot of bird predation
Oh,
between all of those 4.
I don't want to believe.
So here's a couple of other bird predators. I tried to stay away from the ones that everybody knows so much about, but here's the roadrunner, and this was taken at the Kirchhoff Prairie, and that's a mouse in his beak. So yeah, he likes meat too. And that's, of course, a little lizard that he's caught. And they literally will catch anything that's near the ground that's moving, they're very fast. And I always think of, birds are supposed to be the dinosaurs of the past. And when you watch these birds, it really makes you think of that and how quickly they must have caught their prey. And the other one is the shrike. This shrike was taken at the Kirchhoff Prairie, and they are called butcher birds for a reason, because they like to catch prey in many different kinds, birds, insects, snakes, lizards, all kinds of things that are small enough. And I'm always surprised at how big their prey is. I've seen them catch birds that were almost as big as they were. They're not real big birds. And they go stick it on barbed wire, or they'll get a thorn or something and they'll stick it on a thorn. And sometimes they'll have them catched all around where their little territory is. Whenever they get hungry, it's lunch.
Do they predate rodents as well? Do they impale rodents?
Yeah, yes, if they can get one.
What is that on the right that you?
That's a grasshopper. It's just a big grasshopper.
Oh.
Kind of hard to tell. I did have a picture of a bird, but it
I'm
was,
glad you did that.
I decided I didn't like that picture. Too much. And of course, there's lots of snakes on the prairie. And all of these were some snakes that we photographed at one time or another. That one was that's a bull snake. They're very common. We have them probably at every prairie we have, except Deer Park Prairie. We had a intern one summer from Parks and Wildlife that came, and he set out all his different kind of traps, trapped and trapped and trapped and trapped. He never got one snake. I'm not even sure he got a frog. I think he got some toads, but it wasn't very successful. And we've wondered if maybe the grass is too thick or something, but whatever, we're not seeing snakes out there. Have you?
We did find, not me, someone else found a skin of a snake,
Okay.
but it looks like like a little grass snake. It's
Yeah,
really small.
yeah, right. That's probably more likely. This, of course, is a diamondback rattlesnake, and I photographed that on the road right next to Madden Prairie. It was coming out of the prairie, moving across the road, and they're common out. We see them out there all the time. That was also at Madden at the creek, at Champion Creek, and that's I think a diamondback water snake. I know it's a water snake. I'm not totally sure of the species because I didn't get a real good picture of it. They swim pretty much in the water or stay close to the bank because they eat fish and frog. That's the two main things they like to eat. And this is a speckled king snake. They also call them prairie snakes. This was at Daphne Prairie. That's Glenn holding it. So when we were out, I led a lot of tours for B.F. Hicks, who owns Daphne Prairie. When Glenn and I were driving a bunch of ladies around from a little town called Linden. There were about 5 of them in our mule, and we were driving around. All of a sudden, Glenn slams on his brake. We both saw the snake at the same time. And so, you know, if you're a full-fledged wildlife biologist, if you see a snake, you have to stop and you have to go chase it. Because you have to see what it is, right? So we jump out and Glenn goes and grabs the snake. And of course, all the ladies in there were not expecting to do that, but we showed the snake around to everybody. Well, the funny thing was, about a year later, that group from Linden, they were a Native Plant Society, asked me to come and do a talk at their group. So I went, and I had this picture in there because they wanted me to talk about all the prairies up there in that Northeast Texas area. And I'm telling them this story. And so one lady raises her hand. That was me, and I was scared to death. Okay. So there are a lot of snakes at Daphne Prairie. That's one thing I'll say. This is in far northeast Texas. And this is a banded water snake. This one right here. And this picture doesn't really show it, but if you look right there, you see a bulge in his body. And he's probably just eaten either a big fish or maybe a bullfrog. There's bullfrogs out there too. They will eat something fairly large. And at certain times of the year, especially during the summer, you'll just see them patrolling the edge of the ponds. They'll be just swimming around. And there's one of them I saw swimming around. He's kind of testing the air to see if there's anything good to eat nearby. And this one is real cute. It's not very big, probably about 2 feet long at the most. And it's a ribbon snake. And it likes living over the water too, but it eats small aquatic things, not frogs and fish. Now, this was one of the interesting pictures that I took at Madden Prairie Preserve. It's a black spider killer wasp. And when I first saw it, this is what I saw through my binoculars. I'm walking down the road and I see something down there. I look at my binoculars and that's pretty much what I saw. I thought, that is the strangest looking spider I have ever seen. What's wrong with it? Its legs are sticking up because I couldn't see the wasp. Well, then when I got up close, of course, then I could see why it looked there. You can kind of see the same thing. And that wasp is not as big as this spider, and it's literally dragging it along, and it will take it to its den, a hole in the ground, where it will carry it down into the hole. And then, of course, it's Halloween.
I've seen one doing that at my dad's house, my parents' house.
Yeah, they're common. This is a very common wasp, and they typically tackle spiders much bigger than they are. They like to do
It
that.
was a wolf spider.
Well, it's not. I don't know if that's a.
Oh, at my parents' house, sorry. At my
Oh, at your
house.
parents' house.
It was
Okay,
heavy.
yeah, I'm not honestly sure what kind this one was. The wasp took it away before I identified it. Well, so one night we decided we would go out at Madden and walk around on the roads and see what else we could find in the dark. And we had our spotlights, of course, and we were kind of shocked, I
I'm shocked.
think. So this is a camel cricket. Now, I don't know if you can tell or not, that is a grasshopper leg. That is a grasshopper leg. And there's a few other little bits and pieces of grasshopper there. He's just finished eating one. So they like to eat. We didn't know this. And they were all over the place, and they were feasting on all the grasshoppers that were on the road.
I know.
And then we saw this grasshopper. This is a differential grasshopper. It's probably the most common grasshopper in Texas. And there he is hugging his prey. He's just eaten the abdomen. As you notice, there's no abdomen there. So, you know, the abdomen is missing, and he just had a nice meal. It looks like he's about ready to chomp down on the thorax, but
And my students just caught one of those on Tuesday.
the differential grasshopper, yeah, they're very common. I did not know that they would eat other.
I know.
And this one it was pretty much about the same size. I mean, it's not like they're getting little bitty prey or anything.
How
These are
does it
big.
even kill
I
it?
know, right?
How does it even kill
Poison
it?
or chomping or.
Well, look at his breath. He's all there.
Fix it?
I warned you I would have some creepy crawly critters in this. Okay, this is a ground beetle. And I don't know how well you can see it, but he is eating a dragonfly. And I thought this was really amazing because dragonflies hardly ever land. And when they do, they're usually someplace where it wouldn't be easy for you to catch them. So I can't figure out how he got it, unless maybe I thought, well, maybe it fell off a car, you know, when the car park is, you know, or something like that. I couldn't figure it out, but whatever, he had it and was eating it. And you can kind of see the wings of it. The green part is his body. And then these are the wings. Yeah, can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely I'm sorry, that's probably my fault. I'm sorry. Let's turn it off. Now, this, you may want to call it a wolf spider, but it's actually a jumping spider. There's a whole group of spiders. These spiders people like to keep for pets. I did not know that because I'm not fond of spiders. But apparently these are considered very lovable spiders. And most of them are much hairier. In fact, the female of this one, this is a regal jumping spider. They're quite common. The female is actually a totally different color. She's kind of almost white, ghostly looking with lots and lots of hair all over her. So quite different, like a teddy bear spider. Yeah, I guess people like that. 'Cause I kept, when I was looking up about them, they kept calling them, they're so cute.
There's a girl on TikTok, she has one and
Okay.
she gives it a little voice.
Oh,
Like
no.
she gives a voiceover for her little pet jumping spider.
And apparently they can jump something like 50 times their length or some crazy amount like that. That's why they're called jumping spiders. But this is a real common one that I caught one day out at the Kirchhoff Prairie. This is I don't really like spiders. It's one group of animals I'm not real fond of, but if I had to pick one, this would be my favorite one. And there's two of them there. This one is eating a wasp, as you can see. The funny thing about these is every prairie I go to, I'm out photographing everything I can. And I get home and I start looking through my pictures and I'm going, oh, hi. Because the lynx spider would be sitting on some flower that I photographed. I was taking a picture of the flower. I didn't see the spider until I got back, and lo and behold, there he is. They're literally on every prairie. They're everywhere. These are very, very common. They're probably economically fairly significant because of the number of insects that they eat. And here's more of them taken at various prairies. I tried to get this one. I'm still trying to figure out because I think there's two of them. Because look, there's a leg way up here and a leg way down here. I think that's too long. I think there's two. I've been trying to figure this out for a long time. Can't quite see it. The males, this is a male. See how skinny he is? And then this is a female right here. That's a male too. And the ones you saw prior to that were females. The females have big fat abdomens and males are skinny.
Is that frostweed up there?
Did they what?
Frostweed up
Yes,
there.
that's
Yeah.
frostweed there.
So that-
And I got to think about all the different prairies I was getting photographs from, and I thought, wait a minute, I have a little pocket prairie in my yard. I can put something in from my pocket prairie. So you can say that pocket prairies will host a lot of these unusual little animals that you wouldn't maybe expect to see anywhere else. This guy was kind of fun. When I first saw him, he was like that on this Coreopsis, and he was waiting to catch something. And I went around the yard photographing, came back, and there he had caught something. He was busily munching away on it's either a leaf hopper or a tree hopper, I'm not sure which. And then this will end our little tour of the prairie spiders, because these are probably two of the most common ones. These are the orb weaver spiders. When I was a kid, one time I went out in a big field behind my school. I was exploring, and I got in some real tall grass, and there were these spider webs everywhere, and they were this kind, and they were big, those big spiders, like a nightmare. I was so terrified, and I think that's where I first learned to not like spiders. But when you step back and look at them, they're really very attractive looking spiders. They're gorgeous, but oh, they're big and scary.
It looks like a little alien on the body. See the little eyeballs.
Oh,
and the
yeah,
arms
yeah.
and the feet.
Yeah. Strange looking creatures. I think this one is, I like this one a little bit better, but he's just terrifying to me. And that's the golden silk orb weaver. And apparently both of these are very common actually, but you're always going to encounter them in any prairie that you go to. You probably have them in your yard too. This is another one of my favorite bug pictures. This was at Madden. This was an assassin bug. And they have long proboscis that they use for sucking. That's how they get their food, whatever. And some of them are blood suckers too. So, you know, he's got a bee that he has caught, probably a green sweat bee. And he's inserted his proboscis, you can see there. And he's sucking out all the juices inside the bee.
Is that goldenrod?
No, that's yellow Hymenopapus,
Oh.
which is this is at Madden Prairie, and it's a western species. It's not one you would see here, but it's very similar to that old plains one.
Hmm.
It's related to it. This is another one of my favorite strange looking insects. These are robber flies. And this one right here, this one with the big green eyes, is holding on to a cicada that it has caught. Well, honestly, I'm not sure it's a cicada. I can't really tell what he's holding, but he is eating it, whatever it is. That's his proboscis right there. Same thing. He's having a snack, a big snack. And then here's another one. A lot of them have these beards, which is kind of strange. They're bearded. Some of them real long, heavy white beards. And he's also holding, you can't see it real good, but that's some kind of insect right there that he's caught and eating. I hardly ever photograph those without catching them with something in their mouth or close to their mouth. They're very efficient predators and very common. This is a centipede. It's out of the insect group and into some other groups here. This is another one that likes meat. We've been finding out about all kinds of things that like meat. Well, the picture right here was taken just south of Madden. That was on a grill. That was a piece of raw meat that had slipped down. And there's the centipede. He's grabbed hold of it and he's munching away. He likes that. Yeah. So you don't want to pick these things up.
Hear that the stings on those.
Yeah,
hurt
they're bad.
Really bad.
Yeah. These are not something you want to touch or pick up. And they're very common. They're probably on every prairie that we have, different species. So then I got to think, well, you know, as I said, I really focused on animals in this presentation, but I forgot that at your park, we have a carnivorous plant. Have you seen any of this?
Yes, my first year here.
Yeah. So I'm hoping with all the mowing that they've been doing recently that, because they have to have at least a little bit of open bare ground to be able to form their little colonies. And I think it got so overgrown for a while, they may not have been able to reproduce, but they're beautiful little creatures.
I think Don has some pictures of more recent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's some out there. This is, if we want to talk about colorful insects, this one probably. Oh, yes, I forgot. So the insects are going to have a Halloween ball, and you get to pick which one you think has the best attire. And so I have a piece of paper. Glenn, you know where that little tablet is that I had out? It's pink. So what I'm going to ask you all to do is I'm going to show you and tell you about some various insects, and we'll talk about how they look and how they're dressed. And you get to pick, this is our activity for tonight. You get to pick what you think is your favorite. It's a little pink,
Right? Yeah.
Post-it notes, little pink pad of post-it notes.
Oh,
We could all probably write down our phones.
let's
I got
go.
it. Yeah, I got it.
Actually, I have a student.
I got it.
On.
Take one and pass it around. You don't have to remember the names. I have them numbered. At the end, we'll look at all of them again. So this is I always have a hard time saying, I want to say Stenapsis, but it's Stenaspis,
Yeah.
longhorn beetle. And the first time I saw it, this thing is huge. It's about this long. A big beetle. but it is so gloriously iridescent green. And then that bright red with the black spots, very highly decorated. And look at those antennae with the little black beads on his antenna. He's finely dressed. So this is number one. Go to number two. Now, believe it or not, that is the name of this, that's a common name of this grasshopper. I know you think I just made that up. I did not. He is a handsome locust. That's what they're commonly called. They are also very common grasshoppers. They're seen frequently. So he must think he's a handsome fellow with his little black beads along his wings and his, notice his dotted eyes for effect. Yes, he's a very handsome fellow. And this one just has gone all out. This is the rainbow grasshopper. And they're not all the same color. Sometimes they're yellow and black with some red mixed in. This one, he just blew me away. Look at those blue eyes. He's patriotic. This is a patriotic grasshopper, red, white, and blue. And look at those cute little dainty wings with spots on them. I mean, you can't get any better than that. I had never seen this one before. I ran into this one about 2 years ago in the fall on goldenrod. That is goldenrod there. And he's kind of a rusty orange color, which didn't show up real good, but oh my goodness, look at his eyes. Big, giant green eyes. This is not a grasshopper. This is a katydid. Why is it a katydid and not a grasshopper?
Hind legs.
Well, that's one thing, but there's something more obvious.
The wings are above. and
That's one thing. And
Abdomen is smaller.
one of the easiest ways to tell them apart is the antenna, because there are no grasshoppers that have, look how long this antenna is. I mean, I couldn't even get it all in the picture. It's so
You hear
long.
that, Chuck? That's a way to identify them.
Grasshoppers have short ones. Now, some of them have longer ones than others, but none of them have those really, really long antennas. But you were right about the other things that you said. The wings are usually kind of almost like a tent over their body, and they have usually a pretty obvious ovipositor if it's a female. And so this is the next one in our lineup of ladies. This one isn't a lady. This one has an attitude, right? This is called the red-eyed devil. You may not believe this, but these are actually also fairly common on all of our prairies. Well, you can see here we get to the meat eater again. I didn't realize I had so many things eating stuff.
Is it a grasshopper?
He's eating a little gecko.
He did.
Yes.
It's a katydid. Okay.
And you can see his jaws look pretty proficient there. He's got some pretty good chompers. And these are his under wings. Now here you can see the wings folded up there. Those are the top. They have two pairs of wings. And so that's the top wing. But when he gets mad and he wants to try to scare you, he fluffs out those under wings. And yeah, that looks a little bit intimidating. Actually, these things have a very unpleasant bite. You don't want to pick one up. And look at his legs. He's just covered with thorns. But probably the most surprising thing is just the color, the red eyes and the green color. Yeah, he's very, very intimidating and striking in his attire. I like this one. I had to put it in because of the name, right? Halloween pennant. The males are generally orange. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not good with. I don't know how to get back.
Go in the opposite direction.
Yes.
No.
Hey, oh,
There.
there.
Okay. So the males are orange and the females are usually yellow or clear. So there are two females on the bottom and the two males are on the top. And these are actually fairly common. You see them. And one of the things that's interesting about them is they frequently are away from water. And that's why you see the female there photographed in grass. That one at the top is actually on top of a coneflower, which is kind of cool. So that's number 6. And here's number 7, the widow skimmer. We got a female over on the left and these are males on the right. So one of the things interesting about this particular dragonfly, since we're talking about attire, does anybody know what that color is called? It has to do with a fruit. I'll give you a hint.
I've heard it,
You're-
somebody I can't
Okay.
remember.
That color
Coconut?
is what?
No, it's online, somebody online.
Oh, what'd they
is trying to
say?
answer.
What did you-
Coconut?
Coconut? Well, it's a good guess. It's actually called prunos. Because if you stop and think about it, prunes are very dark purple, right? But they get this kind of white stuff on them sometimes. And so that's what you're seeing. They're kind of blue underneath. And they get, as they age, they get this kind of white coating over that dark blue. And it's called prunos. I did not realize that for a long time. I kept seeing that description of prunos. But what is that? But then I found out it was pretty cool. So that's a widow skimmer. Now, if this one doesn't blow you away, I don't know what does. This hot neon pink. It's called a roseate skimmer. And it's not real common, but boy, when you see it, you won't miss it because it is gorgeous. Flashy dresser.
You know, recently at your park.
Yes, and I think I have seen them there also. This one I happened to photograph at Kirchhoff, but I know I've seen them there too. I love this guy. So check out his head. It's pretty cool. So these are his eyes. And look at the spots on his eye. It's part blue, part green with black dots all over. His face is green with black hairs. Pretty unusual combination. And he's got blue and green all over his body. And it's a very common dragonfly called the eastern pond hawk. And that was photographed at Daphne Prairie. That's number 9. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard of the harlequin bug, right? Because it's a pest, agricultural pest. It eats a lot of different types of agricultural products, so people don't like them very much. But as for being colorful, and that is not a beetle, by the way, that is a tree bug. He has a shield, as you can see, they're called shield bugs. And his shield, that's what he's wearing to the Halloween party, is appropriately yellow and black. This is 11, the net-winged beetle. I love these things, and I do see them fairly frequently. They look so delicate. I thought it was a moth at first, the very first time that I ever saw it, but it's not. It's a beetle, and it doesn't look like your typical beetle. But one of the ways you can tell it's a beetle is because you look at the wings. It's got 2 wings, and if it meets in a straight line down the back, that tells you it's a beetle, because most of the other insects don't do that. So it's one of the ways you can tell some of these more confusing ones. But that gorgeous orange and black, I mean, you couldn't have a better color for Halloween. Great job. This is the Sonoran bumblebee. This thing is big. It's about, I should say, is about this big. It's a queen. And I know this because I took these pictures and I sent some descriptions and sent it off to the, what's the society? Xerxes Society. Yes, that's where I sent it. And they sent it back and said, wow, you have a Sonoran queen bee. I was like, cool. And it was beautiful. Again, we got something going with the black and white. I mean, the black and orange here.
Yeah.
Got a little competition. She just may beat him out. And this is a Polyphemus moth. They do occur here. And they should be found even in the vicinity of Deer Park Prairie. I don't know if any have ever been seen there. Have you ever seen any, Ella? Yeah, they're gorgeous, but they do require trees. They do like urban areas because a lot of times there's a lot of trees in urban areas that they eat the leaves from. And they're called Polyphemus moth because that was the name of the Cyclops in Homer's The Iliad. So
Really?
Yes, because they had these big giant eyes. Yes, so that's why they're called that. I didn't know that for a long time. Pretty cool. I think it's one of the most beautiful moths that exist. And this one was taken at Deer Park Prairie. You've probably seen them out there. These are the white-tipped black moth. Sometimes they call them the black white-tipped moth. I don't know which way it's supposed to be, but either way, they have big black wings with white on the tip. And I thought they were gorgeous the first time I saw it. Do y'all know if this is a male or a female?
Not feathered antenna, but I don't know if that,
You're on the right track.
so that would be a male.
Yes,
If it's got
because the
feathers,
males
it's got a
always have
smell.
feathery antenna and the females will have real skinny, thin antenna. I can go back. I think I can. I can't. Okay.
Going forward.
There. Okay, look at those antennae. What is it in? What do the antennae look like? They look feathery. They are not feathery.
They're not feathery, so she's a girl.
They're just kind of like a little string sort of. If you would really notice a difference. I wish I had a male one I could put up there next to it because the male, the feathers would be standing out on either side like
Yeah.
a half an inch. I mean, they're big. And this one, they don't stand out quite as much, but you can still see that feathery look to it. And apparently these are quite damaging to cherry trees. I didn't know that.
Hmm.
They also eat impatiens. Their larvae do. That was another thing I found out that they. Oh, and on the reason they may be. We have snow on the prairie out at Deer Park, don't
I
we?
think so.
I think so. That is another plant that they like. Is snow on the prairie, euphorbia. And this picture I photographed, I think, one of the first years that we acquired Deer Park. We had some real tall, I don't know if those pine trees are still standing over there, but anyway, they were nesting in that pine tree and they had 3 young. It was really cool. They haven't done it since then.
I think God kept the tall ones.
Well, good, because that was the ones that they were using. And this one actually was taken at Mad Island Prairie at the Nature Conservancy property. And I just think these are the most regal, royal looking birds with that sharp eye that's, just bright red. They're just gorgeous. What can we say? That's number 15. This is our last one. My favorite prairie bird, the big sisal. And look at him. He's got this beautiful vest of yellow, a necklace of black, yellow eyebrows, and an orange pat on his wings that act as a cloak. If that isn't dressed for Halloween, I don't know what is.
Very nice color.
They're incredibly beautiful, and for them to be so numerous when we don't always see them every year, but when they're there, there's just like thousands of them, and you're just like, oh, it's another dick sisal. But when you see those things up close, they're absolutely gorgeous. Okay, everybody, write down your favorite.
Just one?
You can write more than one if you like.
Run through them again quick.
Yes, I'm going to do that. There they are.
Oh, good.
And they are in the order that I showed them to you. In other words, on the left is your 1, go across to the right, and that's 4, and then down below at 5, go across to 8, and so forth. So they're numbered in order. So if you don't want to write the name, you can just write the number.
You not get one for yourself, Glenn?
Okay, stay.
No, you have to do it too.
Thing is, I like birds better than.
I almost did it all insects, but then I thought, well, that's not really fair. There are some beautiful birds.
I'm gonna do first, second, and third.
Okay.
Because.
Well, I thought about telling everybody to do that, but I was afraid I'd have a revolt and everybody would say that was too much.
Not these nerds.
Look at your choir.
I want to rank all of them first. of all.
That's right. Me too.
Yes, I forgot who my audience was. A bunch of prairie nerds.
Yes, but I got one more. I'm going to
Okay.
third place here. Go ahead. 'Cause I have-
And you're gonna have to justify, because I'm gonna ask each of you to tell me what was your favorite or favorites.
All right.
Okay, ready? Almost. All right, Della, I'm gonna start
Is he
with
gonna
you.
pick them up or?
No, you're gonna each tell me. You're gonna tell all of us what you picked. What were your favorite three?
Are you looking at me or?
Yes,
Bob?
you.
I had to go with Dick Sissel for number one.
All right.
And then number two was the Bumblebee because she's beautiful too. And then I absolutely adore number five. That is the.
Oh, the red-eyed
Yes,
devil.
Yes.
Yes, well, let's see who's gonna keep score over Glenn.
Okay.
I don't know how you're gonna do first.
I don't know how you're gonna do it either.
I just wanna do first.
I'm just counting the first. The first, okay.
All right. What did
My
you pick?
winner was the red devil.
Red Devil, that's number 5.
Yeah, number 5.
Number 5. My runner-up was the rainbow grasshopper, or rainbow cricket.
Yes, the rainbow grasshopper.
Is that a nymph or no?
No, that is an adult. They don't have very big wings. So very good. Oh, my favorite.
Number 1.
Number 1. That thing is gorgeous. And did you pick one?
Should I give you the ones from the chat?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So Chuck Duplant says I have a write-in vote for scorpion fly.
I almost put one in.
And Judy Thomas is voting for number 5, which has gotten 3.
The
And
red-eyed
then,
devil.
Shirley Hunter, Dick Sissel,
Okay.
the last one.
16.
And Izzy votes for number 7, which is the widow.
Skimmer?
Yeah, widow skimmer. And then I picked number 10 for my number 1.
Oh, the Harlequin?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it pops the most.
It
and
does.
Then number 5 is my second choice. And my third choice is the Sonoran Bumblebee.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
Okay, I have to go with purple. I mean, he's just looking, he's just gorgeous. And my granddaughter's favorite color is purple, so you know.
Purple border on
I
it.
just think it's just
Yeah.
how unusual, how unusual.
It is unusual
Yeah,
and
and,
beautiful.
yeah, and then I like I love the widow skimmer too, that brown and white.
Mhm.
And
It's
that
very, very
tail,
striking.
That tail is just, I'd love to see that in person.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
In person. It just, and you can't miss it. They just stand, you can literally see them all the way across a pond. They're so I guess it's the contrasting colors that make them stand out like that.
So you're gonna see it with it, so you can see it on the water.
Usually I do. It's usually somewhere around water. Yeah. Lynn?
My first choice is number 1. Second choice is number 5. And the third choice for the color is the 8.
Oh, the
The
purple.
purple one, the
Rose color, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Karen DeBoard says my vote is for the Red-Eyed Devil.
Yeah.
So,
I knew he would get a lot of votes.
Which one's the red one?
Number 5.
Number 5. Yes. Okay, Glenn, you gotta figure out what our score is.
Well, I have to, mine was number 12. the,
Oh.
Bumblebee.
The Bumblebee, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Is
Well,
that the one you
My
picked?
number
Yeah.
2.
yeah, the number 5 got 3 votes. Number 1 got 2 votes. The others each got 1 vote. But since I'm partial to the Bumblebee, I
Uh-oh.
have to say that it got some second and third place votes too. So,
So maybe the Bumblebee won,
no, I think we have to go with just number 1 vote.
number 1. Well, I will tell you that beetle, the first time I saw it, it just, I think my eyes popped out. It was so large. And sitting on a little tiny flower, so you couldn't even see the flower hardly. It was, you can see there, it was just
Yeah.
a little flower it was on, so it just kind of took up the whole space. It was amazing. In fact, I sent it into Bug Guide. I was so proud of it,
Yeah.
only to discover that so had probably about 70 or 80 other people sent their pictures. And so apparently they're out there. And of course, when people see them, they go, oh my God, I found something really good. And they send it, you send it in and then you find out,
Tell
well,
Chuck he has to change his vote. He can't write it.
I just looked up scorpion flies and it really does look like they have a
Oh,
scorpion
yes.
stinger, but it says on Wikipedia that the part that looks like the scorpion sting is the genitals.
Yes. Interesting bugs. They're very cool bugs. All right, well, that was fun. Well, now, really, my goal here was to let you see some of the amazing creatures that are out there on our prairies that we are saving. So there's a reason, for what we do. We all struggle so hard of trying to raise money and all the things that we have to do, to try to maintain these prairies and to acquire more. But when you look at the species that are out there, we may eventually have the only pieces of property left where these animals can exist. And I did want to point out one thing about, and some of you may know this, I know Lynn knows this. When we first started trying to acquire Deer Park Prairie and, getting to that 4 million mark just seemed so out of reach. And I think it was it Flo and Jaime that took Terry Hershey out to the prairie?
Jaime and I don't think Flo was there. Oh, Matt Buckingham.
Oh, okay. So they took Terry Hershey of the Hershey Foundation out to Deer Park Prairie. And she told them as they were riding around, and apparently it was some horrible rainstorm, thunderstorm. But still, she, after going out there and realized the animals that were out there, she said, I want to save it for those animals. $2 million to save it for those animals. So they have a place. And you saw some of them here because I tried to get as many of them as I
It was
could.
her own money. It wasn't foundation money.
Oh, really?
And she wanted to save the animals. So just keep that in mind. 'Cause I think that's a really important thing. All of us have a role to play in what we can do to save these rare sites. And I always think from Deer Park Prairie, I always think of snowy orchids. To me, that's just one of the most incredible. I've never seen them anywhere. I suppose they exist elsewhere, but I've never seen them anywhere.
Once it might have been once common, even in Harris.
Yeah, that's what and yet, I mean, are there other locations of them or pockets of them in East Texas?
Adam Baxter posted a picture.
Has he?
Yeah.
Well, they
yeah,
can't
some
be
of that's
very
what-
common.
Some here.
I think there are some locations in Winnie, I think if I remember
Okay.
correctly.
Yeah, well, that would make sense.
Singhurst,
There's,
some in Winnie.
there's some, I think, in Sabine.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Sabine National
Mhm,
Forest.
mhm.
Some in Watson Preserve.
At Watson Preserve, right, they would
There may
have
be
some,
still in Big Thicket.
Yeah.
But,
but not many.
and there's still that site, I guess it's still there, near Winnie. It's the first time I ever saw it. Saw it.
Is that what you were talking about? Yeah.
Pat, did you get to see after the February mow when they came in May? There were hundreds.
I was so disappointed I didn't get to go over there and see them. That's my favorite thing to see. And I wondered if maybe there were more of them because they had more room to come up because that grass was so thick, I'm not sure.
Right.
I think it inhibited them. So I think maybe the mowing helped them anyway. I don't know. I'm not,
That is very rare. You know, if you look at, what is it, Nature Serve?
Uh-huh.
They rank these things.
yeah,
I don't know, it's S4 or something.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been reevaluated. since
That's the problem.
1986.
that's the problem. In fact, I'm going to talk about another species here in just a minute and that same issue. I picked out a couple of things I wanted to end with. Y'all were talking about how you love owls. So do I. These were some owls that I photographed at Madden. And it just so happened the way I took the picture, how you get the red eye sometimes, but it was so cool. It's like, I don't want to change it. I like it. They really did have yellow eyes, but, but I left it with the red because I thought
They have ghoulish eyes.
do.
right?
And this actually was a juvenile. It wasn't a full grown, but you can still see some of the fuzzy white stuff on him. He's not, the full plumage of a great horned owl.
Give that picture to Bob for the newsletter.
You're welcome to use it. I love that picture. I wanted to end with a bat. I mean, how appropriate for, Halloween is to end with a bat. So this is the Rafinesque big-eared bat. There's two big-eared bats. There's Townsend's and Rafinesque. And this one is listed as threatened by the state of Texas, but it is not listed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And it's for that same reason, Joe, that you just mentioned. The reason in fact, it says species of least concern. Least, yes, on the IUCN red list, species of least concern. There are thousands and thousands, both of plants and animals, that are listed as least concern because they don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody has been out to count them, to figure out where their colonies are, how many of them are still out there. And so until they get an actual study where somebody's gone and recorded where all they are and what they think there are and so forth, they keep them listed as least concerned. But they did, I noticed that I read the Fish and Wildlife thing, and it did say, it listed all the different threats that they face. And they typically like hardwood bottomland forest. That's the typical habitat that they like. The reason I mentioned them is when we first started, working different, we were hoping we had some, but no, we didn't have any. We really didn't have the right habitat because they like the hardwood forest and bottomlands and riparian areas. So we never showed up with any. They are found along the Trinity River, and there's two subspecies, and we have the one that's found on the Gulf Coast. So I was disappointed.
They like to live in hollow trees.
Yes, they live in hollow trees. And so, as you know, all the floods that we've had and the hurricanes and storms and so forth, that those kind of hardwoods in the bottomlands are disappearing, especially the big trees. And they like to live in colonies. There'll be a whole colony of them, around maybe 100, not like free-tailed bats, but around 100. And they like to live in hollow trees. And that was probably their original habitat before humans came along. Now they live under bridges, and they will live in old houses. There was one report of them living, this sounds awful, in an old trailer. I have an old trailer on my land. I know what it's like. Believe me, nothing wants to live in it. So they had to adapt and live in human habitations in many cases. So I just wanted to end with that because, after all, bats are iconic for Halloween, right? And this is my ravens. I love these ravens. They're at Madden. They nest there every year, and they make a whole lot of noise. And I just wanted to say, if we don't save our prairies, quote the raven, nevermore. No, Edgar Allan Poe.
And knocking at
Yes.
at my door. And what is the next thing?
And then that's my end. That's wishing all of you happy Halloween coming up.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. That was fun to do, y'all. I had as much fun putting that together as
Oh, I have one question. I noticed that you had one of the pictures was Powderhorn Ranch.
yes.
You've been down there?
Yes, so when it first opened, we kind of all know John Carges. Do you know him? And he worked for the Nature Conservancy, and he was very involved in getting that piece of property preserved. And so he invited HNPAT down there to visit. Did you go, Lynn?
Not that one.
Yeah, I know Kelly Walker went. I can't remember now who all else went, but there were about a dozen of us that went down there to see it. It hadn't even opened up yet, actually. And that's where I took that photograph. That was a robber fly that I took a picture of.
I understand that they're restoring the prairie.
They are, and we did a field trip there recently, didn't we?
Yeah, this past
March.
And where is it?
March, yeah.
Down near Mount, what is that? The closest? I'm trying to think what it's closest to. It's on the middle coast.
It's almost Corpus Christi, it's near Ingleside, I think.
It
No,
would
it's
be
further
north of,
north.
it's further north, a little bit further north than that.
It's north of Aransas.
Yeah, yeah, it is north of Francis. But it's a really cool place. If you get to go, they're doing a lot of restoration on that prairie. They're doing a lot of burning because they had all that, I forgot what that oak.
Running oak.
Running
It
oak.
was
The
overgrown. with
entire
running oak.
prairie covered with running oak. And it's a kind of a shrubby oak that doesn't grow much taller than
It's
about
live
this.
oak, isn't it?
It's actually a live oak and it just covers everything and it's so thick that hardly anything can grow in there or, I mean, think about how a big oak tree is, you know, things don't grow under it very well. Well, these are little ones that just cover everything. And so very little diversity in there and that's what they've been dealing with. And so they've been primarily burning and chemical treatment both, to try to get rid of
They've
it.
been real successful in aerial
Yeah.
treatment.
Hey, they have to
with,
do aerial treatment.
Spike, 20 feet.
But it just shows you how hard it is when you try to reclaim something. It's just really hard to ever get it back and it just takes so much money and time. You know, they were talking about how much it cost them and they had to get grants for it and everything. It's really good. The Nature Conservancy did, but I think it went, or do I have this backward? Did it go to the state of Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah, the state owns it now. And it will be a state park. I don't know if they have it open yet. But they will eventually have it open to the public.
Everybody needs to go, what is that proposition?
Yeah,
Yes,
there is a,
Proposition 4? Is that the one?
yeah, I think
I
so.
think
Yeah.
so. Yes, he's right.
$1 million.
Yes, there is money there. And we need to pursue every bit we can. All right, well, thank you all. Like I said, I had fun doing it. It was,
Thanks so much.
you know, y'all are such a great audience. I
Thank you all
couldn't ask for
online.
anything better.
Pretty much snacks over there.
Yeah, please. take